Thank you so much, Anjana. Thanks. May I yet again welcome all of you here. आप सब लोगों का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया कि आपने इस कॉन्फ्रेंस को ज्वाइन किया. थैंक यू सो मच अगेन. ये हमारे लिए बड़ी खुशकिस्मती की बात है कि हम इस कॉन्वर्सेशन को आगे बढ़ा सक रहे हैं जो हमने 3-4 साल पहले शुरू किया था, which was really about, and Naghma said it very well when she said that it was more about participation than about inclusion. uh, इसका इसका बैकग्राउंड थोड़ा सा दिलचस्प है. वो ये कि जब प्रोफेसर शाहिदा जो यहाँ बैठी हैं, शी इज बीन अ लोन वॉरियर इन दिस फील्ड फॉर सेवरल इयर्स. और ये हम सब लोगों में, especially in academics, she's been plowing this lone furrow for several years in trying to look at the gender question. Uh, and for a lot of us in the development sector, one challenge that has been neglected and ignored by most of us is the entire issue of why India treats its women so badly. Uh, you know, and I have that confession to make. I've been working on various development issues for several years now, but till very recently have never even bothered to look at the gender divide. We've looked at agriculture, at wages, at health, at education. All of that is what is our common paradigm, but we haven't looked at women. And the only index on which we keep falling every year is the gender index. Today, India stands way behind most countries that you can think of. And that's why, thanks to Professor Shahida Murtaza, that we were encouraged to take this issue up. 4 years ago, one of our doyens of equal opportunity, Professor Madhav Menon, was still around and with us, and he had encouraged us to take up this first conference, which we did right here at the same place. And some of you were participants in that conference. At the end of that conference, we realized that while we are looking at the most marginalized and the most vulnerable community, which is India's largest minority, honestly, India's largest minority today is the woman, and the Muslim comes after, and in a lot of ways, far worse off than even the hapless Muslim. So when we were ending that conference, the clear conclusion was that our responsibility was to now look at the most marginalized within the most marginalized, which was Muslim women. And almost as if by design, the entire administration and system and governance delivered to us the problem in greater irony and with greater threat to the Muslims. While we were discussing this conference and how we're going to do it, we had what Fatima described so well as a series of, of assaults on the Indian Muslim woman, with the hijab row being just about the most bizarre one of them. And it's a tough choice to see which one of them was worse than the other. So, in some sense, the lead up to this conference was the various things that happened around us in India rather shamefully over the last 5 or 6 years, definitely. And therefore, while we would not have liked it to be so, we are discussing an issue that is central to most of India's problems today, very, very, very agonizingly reflected in what is happening in international media, in international geopolitics over the last 2 days. Never has it happened that so many friendly allies are so upset with India and India's foreign policy. So it's situated in a lot of these problems that we are looking at. But as academics, when we started this journey, we realized that the issue of minorities, of religious minorities, of Muslims, and of women can get to become a purely emotional issue. कि हम इन चीज़ों को सिर्फ गुस्से से और दिल से और इमोशन से देखने लगे. और इस वजह से हमारी ये जिम्मेदारी बनती है इस हॉल में कि हम उसकी तह तक पहुंचे जहां से हमें एविडेंस मिलता है और जहां से हमें डेटा मिलता है. तो हम लोगों ने तलाश की और उस तलाश के बाद उन लोगों को ढूंढा जो इस किस्म का के डेटा पे काम करते हैं, और ये बहुत छोटी सी माइनॉरिटी है, और तकरीबन वो सारे लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं जो जो उस मुश्किल डेटा पे काम करते हैं. I must again I am very thankful to प्रोफेसर फरीदा सिद्दीकी जिन्होंने इस इशू पे बहुत पहले काम किया. और हमने जब सुधीर कमीशन की तश्कील की थी तब भी हमने उनसे बहुत सीखा था. एंड शी हैज बीन अ बिग सपोर्टर for the issue of how we treat this entire area with the kind of gravitas and evidence that it requires. That is why the first panel is not about the issues, is not about the concerns which we should have done otherwise, but it is about how to do research, about how to look at them or at the women issue, and how do you locate the Muslim woman issue. And therefore, it was really fortunate for us to have uh, India's leading economist, Professor Amitabh Kundu, especially in this area. Professor Kundu has worked in several areas of development economics over his very illustrious career. But what has underlined that career has been his insistence on using good, reliable data in the best possible manner. He has answered the most difficult questions using data, and therefore has been the most credible economist. And nobody really questions even the most difficult things that Professor Kundu has talked about. And we thought that we are going to ask him these questions and help the student community here understand how it is possible to work with the kind of data we have. We have Afroz, Professor Afroz Alam, our own homegrown political economist. Afroz has worked on the at the other end in another very difficult area of political science, of of elections, of electoral issues, using very very meticulously crafted data. Again, Afroz in that manner has been very unique. We have Osama Manzar. Osama, more than 2 decades ago, started on this journey of empowering the vulnerable and the marginalized, and in his journey has done enormous amount of work with women across the country and across the world. But underlying a lot of his work has been the collection of very minute and very important data. Today, Osama is a standard bearer of how we need good data that is extremely fact checked and credible. He is our, in some sense, among the few warriors who's fighting it out against the fake news that is destroying the fabric of the country, in fact, the fabric of the world. And at the end, we have Hasina. The important thing about her and her position in this panel is the fact that she set up the Impulse NGO network again as in a prescient manner in a day at a day and age when NGO networks were not available, and has been working on this consistently through the last couple of decades in very very difficult areas. तो इस वजह से ये पैनल है, ये